So, how do you stop this pre diabetic state going into diabetes? Well, it's not that hard once you understand the mechanism. There's something that happens before prediabetes that you need to know about, and that is a condition called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is a condition where your body is putting up resistance against too much insulin.
Because there are too many carbs in the diet.
To understand this, all you have to do is understand what normal blood sugar really means. Like how much sugar do you have in your body to produce
A normal sugar level.
if we just take a look at normal sugar being 80 milligrams per deciliter, it's really only a tiny bit. It's like 1 teaspoon for all of your blood. You have about a gallon and a half to maybe even up to 2 gallons of blood in your body at any one time. And there's only one little teaspoon that would make your blood sugars 80 milligrams per deciliter. So, how could it be that your consumption of sugar could be so high? Like an average person has at least 31 teaspoons of sugar every single day. How could you have normal blood sugars? Well, it's because of the insulin resistance. The insulin resistance is created to protect you against the toxicity of glucose. And the term for that is glucotoxicity. So, too much glucose to the body is poisonous. So, the body has to protect that by shutting down the insulin receptors because insulin regulates glucose. Insulin allows glucose to be absorbed. So if we can shut down those receptors, we can decrease the amount of sugar that kind of goes into the cells. And so if someone has insulin resistance, which a lot of people do, all that means is you're eating too many carbs and your body's trying to protect itself against too much sugar. Think about this. If you were to talk to me right now and I had earplugs, right, you would shout because I'm like ignoring you. Same thing happens with insulin resistance. It's like these little earplugs in the receptors for insulin. Now, the pancreas actually has to shout, and its communication is going to be insulin because hormones are communication particles. So the pancreas is shouting very loud to penetrate these little earplugs that are stuck in the receptors for insulin. And that's just another way of looking at insulin resistance. So, what we have with insulin resistance is this massive amount of insulin in the blood, but it's not kind of getting through deep into the cells. So in reality, you have a deficiency of insulin on one part of the body, and you have an excess amount of insulin on the other part of the body, which is outside the cell in the blood. But this is never tested. You don't go to the doctor and have your insulin tested. Rarely does it ever get tested. What they test is your blood sugar. So if they don't check the insulin, they're going to miss it because this insulin resistance will keep your blood sugar levels looking normal for a period of time until you hit prediabetes. And what's happening is all this extra production of insulin is grabbing up the sugar
And pulling it out of the blood.
as fast as it can. And it's working hard. The pancreas is working overtime. And so here you are having insulin resistance, eating a lot of carbs, having normal blood glucose for 10 to 15 years. And of course, you have a lot of the symptoms from that, but it doesn't show up as diabetes or prediabetes yet. Until a certain point where your pancreas is like, you know what? I'm tired. I can't keep doing this. Eventually, it starts to become tired. I'm talking about the beta cells that make insulin, and they start to not work that well. And now they output a little bit less insulin, okay? And now the
Blood sugar is going to start going higher because it has nothing to push it down because
insulin's purpose is to push blood sugar down and take the sugar out of the blood. So when the blood sugar can't be taken out,
your blood sugar levels start to rise.
and so when you start to notice that your blood glucose levels start getting like between like 100 and 125, and your A1C starts going up above 5.7% to 6.4%, now we're starting to get into almost a diabetic situation. It's called pre-diabetes. And then with just a little bit of time and not changing the diet, you end up a diabetic. And this is just more damage to the pancreas. Okay, so now the pancreas can't output very much insulin anymore. And so there's no control of the blood sugar. So the blood sugars go higher and higher and higher and higher. And so diabetes is diagnosed as a blood sugar that's over 126 milligrams per deciliter, or your A1C being higher than 6.5%. But at this point, you still have insulin resistance and you have high blood glucose. So you can imagine you have a situation because you have a major cellular deficiency of insulin, but then you have all this sugar outside in the blood, and that's going to act as rust. It's just going to start really messing with you. And so if you haven't already had these symptoms like getting up at night, having to urinate frequently, brain fog, getting tired after you eat, having an appetite that you just have to eat more frequently. You can't go for a period of time without eating. Craving for carbohydrates, maybe some
Tingling in your feet.
or in the hands, loss of vision because the blood glucose levels affect the eyes and the kidneys. And this is why you might have urination issues. But it's definitely going to start affecting your liver. Your liver is going to be fatty. And the way that you know your liver is fatty is the spillover of fat in the visceral around the organs in your belly. If you look down right now and you can't see your feet because your belly's sticking out, you have a fatty liver. So both belly fat and fatty liver are two other symptoms that you're going to have. So you go to the doctor, you're diagnosed, and they start to control and manage your blood sugars, okay, with medications. Now, the question is, do they look at the dietary consumption of glucose and sugar and refined carbs? No. Might go to a dietitian that might tell you to get rid of refined carbs, but not the total carbs or sugars. That's not addressed, which is fascinating. Instead, we get on a medication that tends to manage our blood sugars more. So we take more medication, and then we're concerned if the blood sugars go too low. And then you're given these little glucose tablets or told to eat candy to keep your blood sugars higher because of the side effect from the medication.
Causes it to be lower.
Insane. Why don't we just fix the diet? I mean, I don't understand. That's so obvious to me. Cut the carbs out of the diet. So, step one is to replace the carbs with fat and protein. That's number one. That is instantly going to take the pressure off the pancreas because that little beta cell that has to pump out so much insulin is triggered by carbs, right? So, if you just don't eat carbs, you give it a chance to rest.
Also,
Don't eat so frequently. Do an intermittent fasting program. If you just combine those two actions for a period of 3 days, it's going to get real easy. Your appetite's going to go away. You're going to start feeling better right off the bat, and you'll produce some pancreatic relief, and your blood sugars will probably come down, and the need for that medication will go down. So you have to get with your doctor to make the adjustments. But just think about this: you're going to live longer if you take less of those medications.
just because your blood sugar level is normalized,
There's no study that shows that you're going to live longer or have necessarily,
fewer problems.
because where is that blood sugar going if you take the medication? Is it just evaporating? No, it's just moving from one area, the blood, to another area of the body, like your liver or other parts of your tissues. That's what it's doing. It's not correcting anything, it's just managing the sugars. The other thing that you should probably focus on too is the high quality antioxidant foods like low starch vegetables, because those antioxidants will, at least at a bare minimum, help protect against the collateral damage of all that sugar. So even though you're diabetic, you can at least minimize the complications and the side effects, which I already mentioned, just by eating healthier, even if you didn't change the amount of sugar in your diet, and even if you still had diabetes. Here's the other thing you need to know. When you have high levels of glucose in the blood and you have insulin resistance, you're going to waste a lot of nutrients through the urine. B1, chromium, potassium, magnesium, vitamin D, and vitamin C, and others too, and zinc. You're going to be deficient in these nutrients. The very things that actually help protect you against developing insulin resistance and diabetes are going to be gone. So you lost these protective factors. So if you're diabetic or pre-diabetic or you have insulin resistance, it's very important to start taking these supplements. Minerals, you can take them as electrolytes with some trace minerals, and then the B vitamins, get your vitamin C from either a supplement, make sure it's from food, or just eat more vegetables to get your vitamin C, or sauerkraut, or lemons, bell peppers. Vitamin D, you can get it from the sun or a supplement, very important.
This will quickly start to turn things around for you and put you in good shape and stop prediabetes from getting worse and turning into diabetes.
The last thing I want to mention is exercise. Exercise can actually burn off a lot of this sugar. It can actually protect the mitochondria from being damaged. So I would definitely add the exercise into this mix so you could really turn things around and help your blood sugar a lot better. There's a lot of things that you can also do in addition. I have a lot of videos on that, but at least I wanted to give you the basics on what you need to do if you have diabetes or prediabetes and you want to prevent it from getting Worse. Now, because of the censoring and the suppressing of the algorithms on YouTube, it's becoming more difficult to find my content. And there's a lot of content that I cannot put on YouTube, unfortunately. So, to make sure you have full access of all my information, go to drberg.com and subscribe to my newsletter by clicking the link down below in the description. I will see you on the other side.